Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. So glad that you joined us today to stay curious. Today's Friday, September 6th, 2024. And on the green screen behind me is just two lots of an auction that's going to happen tomorrow, Saturday, beginning at noon, to support our museum with artifacts of the space age. There's also some jewelry and paintings on this auction. We're going to review it all for you a little bit today, and know that a lot of you do participate in our auctions. This is our 34th one, and Chuck Jeffrey of Bid Again Auctions, and our board member has been doing this out of his heart for about the first 20 of them, and then he created a business out of it, and that's all right because Chuck works hard on this whole event. So at noon, the gavel will fall. But right now, if you want to make a bid on any of the 350 items, let me go back that way. Go to our website and you will see the link at the top, auctions, and you go to the auction house. And you can look for free, but register if you want to put a bid in on any of these items that we're going to talk about. Oh, we're going to talk about 20 or so of them today, go through and give you a good taste of it. A very good auction. I ought to know. I've been around since auction number 4, and very eclectic in what it has to offer. And also, there's a lot of space flown items on this. Payload Bayliner, Kapton foil of Apollo, payload Bayliner of Challenger. Of the Shuttle era. A lot of astronaut signatures, not so rich in it, except for the lithographs of crew signed. Shuttle crews is amazing that they have on there. So check it out. We're going to check it out here a little bit, but first wanted to say, tip you off there. I guess we'll make that full. Marty, Lee Wilson will be on the show Monday, and Mitch Rothman on Tuesday. Lee is an educator and a science-based artist. There, thank you, Marty. He does these murals and then puts things like pieces of a meteorite or a lunar meteorite or Mars meteorite on it. And you're going to enjoy Lee, like I said, an educator out there at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. And Tuesday, Mitch Rothman will be on, and he is the manned space commenter on our program. Stay curious. And Mitch and I have become close, fast friends in the last few months because we're kindred spirits when it comes to celebrating Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, the Skylab and AST missions of our wonderful early history of NASA's space program. So look forward to these two guys next week. And there's Chris Calley with Mitch and one of Chris's masterpieces there, Gemini 4 Spacewalk. And by the way, I'm suffering a little bit under a cold, and I'm coming down with something. So staying away from Marty, but I got the sniffles and all that. So on a hot summer day still here in Florida. Anyway, hi, Chris. Great talking to you as usual. And Mitch, thank you for supporting our museum with the way you do. So, news, a couple news items. Boeing Starliner Marty's going to come back to Earth. Saying hello to Marty Winkel, my co-producer for over 4 years of Stay Curious episodes. We're up to about 1,130 episodes. And the last couple of weeks, or the last 90 days, we've been talking about Starliner. It's been up there, I think, about 95, 96 days of its 8-day test flight. They're going to undock a little after 6 o'clock. Today's the plan. Take about 6 hours to come back to Earth after a couple of orbits around the Earth, then start the descent after they check out all the systems. Empty, of course, it's empty. Butch Wilmore, the commander, and Sonny Williams are left on this International Space Station because of the thruster issues and the main problem with the spacecraft. So be landing a little bit after midnight, Marty. So I'm a night owl. I'll probably stay up and be watching that on NASA TV or somewhere. So it'll be exciting. Of course, we want to return safely with no anomalies, or we'll see a bunch of streaks going across the sky. Let's face it. Marty, you as well as Connie McDaniel. Hello, Connie, one of our star followers of Stay Curious and ace volunteer at the museum. Connie is just like Marty. Blue Origin's drone ship showed up at the spaceport this week. Quite a big news item. It's huge. You're looking at the picture at the top. You're looking at the back, one side of it, and then way in the back end, that's the other side of it. And in between this, in the front, is the landing deck. So uh, Blue Origin getting ramped up to use Port Canaveral as the place to bring back its New Glenn first stage booster. We're hoping for that launch to be happening in October. And of course, we're waiting for the Polaris Dawn mission, Marty. And I see now it is Sunday night, Monday morning at 3:38 in the morning, when Jared Isaacman will go back to space as a private citizen, paying for his ride. And then three rookies will go up. Two of them ladies, and one of the women will do a spacewalk, as will Isaacman. We think they're just going to kind of stick their heads out there and go out untethered up a ladder or something. But all the other two occupants of the spacecraft will be exposed to space also. So this is exciting. If they launch it, they go up immediately 870 miles high on the first day, which breaks the record of Gemini 8. No woman has been further than over 250 miles on the space station. So those ladies will break that record. And then on the second day, it'll come back to about a 400-mile orbit around the Earth. That's where the Hubble telescope is. And the third day, they'll do the spacewalk. And they're supposed to come back on the fifth day. And it's purely an autonomous mission. This is why this 3:38 a.m. is stuck as the launch time, because they're looking at getting it landing in the daylight. And I've never heard what time that is, but let's say it's 5 in the afternoon, or 5 days later. So we could have a potential 19 astronauts orbiting Earth if they're up in space next Wednesday and the Soyuz crew of 3 gets launched. And those 7 will add to the current 12 in space, 9 on the International Space Station and 3 Chinese on their Tiangong space station. Well, we love you talking a little bit astronomy, and the moon is 4 days old, going to be first quarter phase on Monday. So talk like an amateur astronomer. And what does that mean to us? Well, when the phase of the moon, of more of it's exposed from day 12 to day 17, that brightness in the sky washes out all the faint objects that astronomers like to see, galaxies, nebula, globular clusters. Doesn't affect the moon or the planets, of course, the moonshine. So what's really exciting is this weekend is a great opportunity, because the moon is before first quarter and can be a crescent, to see Venus and the Milky Way. Not see Venus, exciting to see the Milky Way. I stuck that Johnny Horn picture of Venus that he took of the quarter phase of Venus. That's not the moon. That's the second planet, Venus. It is really bright now in the west. You go out after sunset in the twilight, you'll see Venus for sure. It's always the third brightest object in the sky behind the sun and the moon, because it's enshrouded in a 30-mile thick cloud layer, mostly carbon dioxide, sulfuric acid, very heinous and deadly atmosphere. And on the surface, it's 900 below zero. So though it's the same size as Earth, about 8,000 miles, it's our evil twin, because it's so hot on the surface. And there's conjecture that life could be in the clouds, and we're always looking for life. So, but you're going to see Venus in the sky with binoculars. You'll see it more of a crescent phase. But the excitement over the weekend is you can see the Milky Way. And here's a nice photo like you could take of the Milky Way. Your camera on a tripod, open up the shutter for 30 seconds with a high ISO of like 2000 sensitivity, that ISO is, and you'll get the band of the Milky Way there. I say 30-second exposure because that's probably as long as your camera will go on a timer. 20 seconds, you'll get plenty too. And you'll see some clouds and frame it with a couple trees, and bingo, you're an astrophotographer. All right. But that's, you're looking at Scorpio and Sagittarius in the Milky Way. And I see some features like in the middle is a globular cluster. The dark lanes are areas of nebulas. So it's very cool. And like I was going to say, Marty, you know the three parts of the Milky Way: caramel, nougat, and chocolate, of course. And here's a cool shot I took west of Melbourne, between Melbourne and Orlando last September. And I got two airplanes going across. That's what the bottom and the one in the middle is, and a nice little meteor streaking across the sky. And that's hard to get, a meteor streaking. And in fact, that's one of my best meteor shots I've ever gotten. You can tell it's a meteor at the top because it starts out faint and gets bright and then disappears. All right. In this exposure of about 30 seconds, I would say. The dot, dot, dot is the plane lights blinking off going over to Orlando, and another one at the bottom. It was obviously showing me its right wing or something. So I get a steady stream of the three lights you always see on an airplane. One's red, one's green, and the other's white. So go out and get you some starshine from the Milky Way after getting a little moonshine from the moon this weekend. You won't regret it. Well, let's get to our auction. Again, if you have something that you wonder, is this real? Is this a real Neil Armstrong autograph? Is this a Frank Borman autograph? You could send a picture to Chuck and he'll tell you that if it's a forgery, you can see the tips to a forgery very easily. And it could be an auto pen. It could be something that doesn't look right. And I've seen so many astronaut autographs now, I can just kind of glance at the eye and know what it's supposed to look like. At least I have the way most autographs of astronauts look like. So Chuck is an expert at that. If he can't tell you, he'll find somebody else who can. But maybe you have a collection. Maybe your neighbor threw out in the garbage a bunch of stuff, and there was some Apollo memorabilia in it. That happened up in St. Louis, where McDonald was, and somebody threw out a controller with the wires and everything on it to a Gemini spacecraft. We sold it for over $30,000, and it was in somebody's junk, and they went over and asked permission to it. Well, let's look at some of the items that I pulled out to peruse. Here's a large collection of space flown material cards. All right, should go for $400 to $500. Some of these are Ken Havicott, our great friend who has had a postal cover company, Space Coast Covers, for 50 years. And then he'll put together these cards, and you see little pieces of each of the 5 orbiters there. Payload bay liner. Maybe there's a piece of foil or piece of the shield or something. So these are cool to have. They go for $40, $50 a piece easily. Look at all of them you got there. You got some space flown payload bay liner. That is a rich collection of flown stuff. And if you're an entrepreneur, you'll buy that and resell it. Now the way that is you can make a bid now, and I can say I'm going to give up to $200. All right. But if the bidding goes and it only gets as high as $150, then the next bid level at $170, that's what I'll get it for. Though I was willing to go $200. All right. Of course, behind me here, I'll just mention, I know y'all love looking at Judith Resnick there. Lost her life in the Challenger accident. She signed that, okay? And it's a personalized signature to somebody. Still, Judy Resnick autographs are very rare out there. So that could go for $1,000. And then over my shoulder, we got Chris Calley and his late father, Paul. Fabulous artists, particularly have done between them over 40 postage stamps for the U.S. Postal Service. This is a artist proof commemorating the 25th anniversary of the first man landing on the moon. This special first day of issue is the first ever Swedish postage stamp designed by non-Swedes. All right, the Calais. The postage stamp was designed by American father and son artists Paul and Chris Calais. The postage stamp displays Apollo 11 astronauts and it's number 2492. So that's the kind of stuff that we've got in this auction. What's very popular is to have space flown patches. They'll take maybe 100 or more. Maybe they'll take 1,000 up. I don't know. They'll fill up and then they can give them away. They have mission pictures that are sent out to be reproduced, and then they'll put the patch in there, and then the crews will sign it, and then you will. They're presented to dignitaries, space workers, and such. So these are, each crew signed item should count as $25 for an astronaut, and then if they're all there, that's an extra $100. And then you got something space flown there. So these are easily $250 to $500 in there. So you got STS 113. That's our friend, John Harrington, the Chickasaw Nation native to go to space. Marty, they signed around the nose of the spacecraft there. All of them did in gold on the upper left there. And the other one's STS 102, one of the infant International Space Station missions. So again, should go for a couple $100 easily. There's about 5 or 6, there's about 8 or 9 of these up for sale. Then here's a big collage. Chuck Jeffrey, particularly his good friends, our auctioneer, Chuck Jeffrey's good friends with Fred Hayes, the famous Apollo 13 astronaut. So we get Fred, he's also our emeritus board member, and wonderful friends with Charlie Mars, our godfather. So Fred has signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here up for grabs. The one is a profile of the approach and landing test that he was a commander of out at White Sands, Edwards Air Force Base. He signed a SSME engine, and then these are checkout lists over my shoulder here. And then there's an unusual group of contact prints. Contact prints laying your negatives on a photographic sheet and printing them out. And those are from some Apollo missions, and I've never seen those before displayed like that. So so all these items there should go for well over $100, $150. Chuck also is getting into other areas of auctioning, and he has about 20 lots or more of some art prints, Americana prints from various artists there that are non-space related. And he has, about 30 items of jewelry. So if you're looking to so I think this is brilliant, Chuck, because you buy you a space-flown flag, like I was just showing you, and then get your wife this goldfish pendant or one of those other necklaces there. I happen to like this gold charm right there. And you say, honey, the good news is I bought you a wonderful charm. And the bad news is I bought more space memorabilia. So, brilliant job there, Chuck. Or vice versa. Maybe the woman's the space collector. Mark, of course, plenty of women collect space. So you get something for your husband that doesn't. This is the last lot. It's not the last one I'm going to show, but it happens to come up as the last lot of the auction. $350 there. You've got some about 8-inch size Apollo emblems that are meant to be mounted on the wall. And there's all kinds of lunar orbiter photographs. Lunar orbiter were 4 orbiters that just did that, orbited the moon, taking photographs. They actually processed the film in the spacecraft and scanned the negatives, so to speak, like a fax machine. So that's why they're rare, and the prints are sought by collectors even to put on your walls as artwork. And that's something we'd love to point out is that collectors around the world, designers, interior designers I'm talking about, consider space art now to be worthy of art on your walls. Okay, so that's something that might stand out in your home or your office. Is this Cali print or this Judy Resnick print there? All right, we're gonna go up. Let me go here. There are again several things from Ken Habicott. These are come with certificates of authenticity. Okay. This one is signed by Gene Cernan, attesting that that little piece of map up in the upper left-hand corner was flown in space. It was flown down to the surface of the moon. Okay, lunar surface map. All right, should go for $400 to $500. These are things that collectors, one of a kind, love to find. Then above my head is a lunar 14 surface material. Stu Rosa, who did not walk on the moon, had moonwalkers Ed Mitchell and Commander and first American man in space Al Shepard take a swath of fabric with him, and when it come back, it got out for sale and so forth. And this is supposedly that blue triangle was in the lunar module. Let's see, that had been lunar module number 7, Marty. And what did they call Apollo 14's lunar module? I'm taxing our senior system, but Steve Jokums knows, so he'll tell us there, Marty. But 14 was that's one that I always get mixed up. So we'll have somebody tell us what the lunar module and command module in 14 were. In the middle, Apollo 11 flown and unflown Kapton foil and other samples. That's a good lot to have. That Kapton foil came right off of the command module, as you see there. And then an Apollo 8 Earthrise, red numbered. And I've said before, these red numbers and letters are sort of VIP given to VIPs. They're the first ones off the press. So, Marty, you've got the answer to the Apollo 14 lunar module. Antares?
Antares, right. And then command module's Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
And that's from Steve J. Steve Holcombs.
Steve, I knew you'd know, buddy. And I was thinking Antares, but I got a cold, so I'm a little brain fogged right here. But that's where your space geekery starts, everybody, is learning the names of the lunar modules and command modules. Then you learn the tail numbers of them. All right, I don't know the command modules, the CSMs, like I do the lunar modules of Grumman. Anyway, bids up to $125 on all these items here. The one over my shoulder is only $100, or is that $1,000? No, it's just $100. So there's still a lot of elbow room in there, but boy, people usually wait till the gavel falls. And this is the early part of the auction. It's about one lot per minute, the way Chuck conducts it, very rapidly. So you're going to be 30 minutes. If you go 30 minutes in, tune in 30 minutes at 12:30, these will be gone. Artist Robert McCall. 2 prints that were actually on office walls here at one time. Of course, we don't keep things that we don't necessarily need. So this beautiful Robert McCall space age print there. It's 20 by 24. And then a rare Elon Musk signed Falcon 9. This is the first successful, this is a Flight 1. The first launch of a Falcon 9, not successful launch. And Elon Musk signed it in the upper right. In the blue area in there. And it is a pretty good signature. It's just not really bold pen. So that should go for $300 to $500. Seeds flown in space. The long duration exposure facility was put up in about 1985 and didn't come back until 1988, I think. It was supposed to only stay 6 months or so in space, and then the Challenger accident happened, and it got stranded up in space. On board were seeds that were Park Seed was the mission, and they came back to space, and people planted them and you've got trees in space and so forth. So that's all about there. And see, the LDF is in the middle of the patch there, right there. They've also flown seeds on lunar modules. The moon trees are famous for that. And I believe that was Apollo 14.
Yes, yeah.
Rare and vintage Snoopy CSD. That is the Crew Systems Division. This very rare vintage Apollo era Snoopy CDS TED Subjects Man Flight Awareness embroidered cloth patch was given at the time to team members and VIPs only. This is the only known surviving example of a vintage Apollo era item that has come to light to be sold. These were the people who tested everything from spacesuits to the internal spacecraft environment prior to the astronauts training in them. This made them quite an important and elite group, the CSD, and I'd never heard of it before, Marty. Have you?
No.
That's how elite they were. Marty didn't even know about it. And he spent 30 years in the shuttle, and what? How many did you do in the Apollo?
7.
8?
Yes. No, 7
8
years.
for Grumman?
7.
7. Okay, I guessed 8. This patch measures 4 inches round and has never been used. It is the rarest of the Apollo era Snoopy patches. All right, the rarest of all. And actually, I think the price is up to. Take my name off there, Marty, please. $475 already. So it's pushing up. Now, somebody may have said, I'll give 1,000, but because other people are just willing to give less, you don't have to give. So if you said, I'm going to give 1,000, $475 is your bid right now. Go ahead, Marty, on that UCX family microphone.
Yeah, Neil 1030 is saying the LDEF was returned on STS-32 in 1990.
1990. Thank you very much, sir. I was thinking 1988, but boy, 1990 is stayed up there 5-6 years, didn't it, Marty? So, thank you. All right. Now, this is very interesting. You ever heard of the cue ball? Or been called a cue ball? Or certainly cue ball in billiards and in pool? Well, the cue ball is the very top of the escape tower, and it is an electronic device that gives the direction that the spacecraft is traveling in. It is the tip of the sphere. And they pull it off, Marty, right? You know about this. Correct me if I get off track here. But it's a very untechnical, non-engineering way they pull the cue ball off at the last minute. There's a cover. And they pull the cover off this cue ball with a rope that's attached to it. They just jerk it off. Am I right, Marty?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd heard us talk about this before. Well, that's what I've read, and I'm sticking to that. And I've got a picture. We have a piece of that cue ball for sale right there. 3 pieces of it, in fact, that you see in the pictures there. And this is a huge section of the Apollo 14 cue ball cover. All right, it must have fallen that 350 feet to the ground or fell somewhere and broke. So this is a rare piece of space history. Go ahead, Marty. What's the comment?
Steve J is saying it's Stu Ball, STUBALL. Or is it LSU, Slew Ball.
Well, I for a fact know it's cue ball that we're talking about on this. And Chuck calls it a cue ball. And, so maybe there's another generic name for it out there. There certainly could be. So, but this is a rare piece of Apollo 14 history. 1971 was that mission. So this is 53 years old. And that is some bragging rights to having that in your collection there. So, the cue ball up at the top there, the cover. I've heard several Apollo people call it the cue ball, including the late Bob Giffen that we talked to there. But I'll check you out there. I'm not looking at your comments there, Steve, but I will later. And here's the presentation honoring Judith Resnick and the Swedish postage stamps by the Cali father and son. And we've got some other hand-signed Dan Whitkoff artwork in there. And boy, that looks familiar to me, Marty. I carried that Snoopy Man awareness poster out to the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex and got 24 astronauts to sign it there. That's so glad. And we're talking $500, quite possibly. I think it's up to $125 right there. So that's a cool thing to have, and I'm getting several of them autographed out there. That's what when we find a Snoopy poster, which is worth $200 by itself, and then you add 24 astronaut signatures on it, all shuttle astronauts on there. More space flown material. All right, Dave Stenge's watching, and Mitchell's watching, and John Borelli's watching. John, you always buying good stuff, swag on there. So look at these items you can buy. Yes, Marty.
Hey, Steve Holcomb is saying, I hit enter by mistake. Shepard called Rooster stew ball. Oh, cue ball was what it was. So you were right, Mark.
Oh, okay.
Cue ball.
He called him Stew Ball, Stu Rosa, his nickname. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's good to be right once in a while, Jay. So thank you there, Steve Jokums. I mean, but Steve's a wealth of knowledge, just like all of you are, and I appreciate y'all straightening me out. Marty straightens me out too, but we know we do this without a script, without any type of teleprompter and so forth, and I got a cold today. In fact, I'm going to do some plop, plop, fizz, fizz here, Marty. Remember that back in the old days?
Alka-Seltzer.
That's right. I got my Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. What's the next line?
Oh, what a relief it is.
Oh, that's right. I'll probably get busted on YouTube for advertising. Not advertising any kind of medicine here. I'm taking medicine so that I can drive home in a haze and jump in the seat and jump in the bed and kick this cold. Well, and I don't drive in a haze either. So, well, let's put that up there. Oh, here's these are some really cool items here. All three of these. Apollo 13 film fragments, all right, with a COA. Underwood was a chief photographer in the lab. He ran the lab at Johnson Space Center. It could be Kennedy, but I think it was Johnson. And you'll find these crop up from time to time where they cut the leader or the end of a movie that was on the surface of the moon, or here Apollo 13. There's no images on it. It's black or clear, but still it was flown in space or on the moon. Alan Bean, there's a piece of his suit in there. I'm not sure what that is all about, but that's worth a good few $100s. And Apollo 13 flown Kapton foil display. Okay, now the Kapton foil, is that Kapton or Mylar, Marty?
Mylar, according to me.
Yeah, I say it's Mylar, and they call Kapton is a gold color. The Mylar's covering the outside of the command module, and a lot of them got stripped away. And where did they get this? Whatever you want to call it, it was on Apollo 13, and when the divers got there, some of them ripped it off the side and put it in their pocket, and it comes up for sale 50-some years later. Do you want to own Apollo 17 or the Columbia crew signed lithograph? All right. Marty, take away my name, and we'll see that the bid is already $6,000, folks. 16 bids. Chuck thinks it'll go as high as 8, but he hit the nail on the head when he said the low estimate of 5. It's already at 6 with 16 bids placed on it. All right, now that means each bid raised it higher. There could be 2 people bidding on this that have placed 8 bids each, see? And if you put 8,000, then you're the highest bidder at 6 right now. Somebody bids 6,500 is the next increment. You get it for 7. So our fallen heroes, I've met many people that knew all these, some 1 or 2 or 3 of these astronauts. And though it happened over 20 years ago, it's still painful, this tragedy. This is a gold astronaut pendant or charm flown in space by astronaut Woody Spring. Two of these gold charms were flown on the Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-61B in 1985. One for Jerry Ross and one for Woody Sherman. Sherman Spring. And they both did spacewalks. Jerry's kept his all these years, and Woody says, why not? Tired of looking at it in my wife's jewelry drawer. Nobody wants to wear it. I'll sell it. So it's up to $225. All right. Should go low bids $2,000. All right. So that's kind of a cool item to have. A spacewalking astronaut for sale, took into space by a spacewalking astronaut. So, and one more to tease you with today of tomorrow's auction. This canvas textured print of Al Beans is worth having even without the autographs around it. All right. And this will go for several $1,000s. Ron Woods. Hey, Ronnie. He is a space suit technician that put the Apollo 11 astronauts in their space suits. And this is one of his pieces of artwork. Just hanging around, I think he calls it. And that's one of my favorites on there. I believe on the canvas textured art signed by astronauts, Neil Armstrong did not sign it. All right. And I don't think Harrison Schmitt did either. He may have. But the details of that are online. Check it out. We've got Bid Again Auctions doing a terrific auction Saturday. Tomorrow the gavel goes down at noon. And be there, help our museum. We're not selling any collection items in our collection. Anything that we sell from the museum is extras or leftovers or just like the poster of the Snoopy that I got signed by 24 astronauts. So, Marty, you've got a comment or question, because I have me some medicine.
A comment from Mark Thel. He says, Alan Bean's suit fragments are available because the suit was disassembled to check on just how the suit fared on 12.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for chiming that in. So it was parts of the suit that were functional, and they just, someone ended up with them somewhere. So, well, have a good day there, Neil 1030. Appreciate you staying curious. Doug Forrest and Tom Musiak. Hope you have a great weekend. Probably about ready for the Pennsylvania leaves to change. And where Tommy is, Doug Forrest, he's like us, always in paradise with nice weather. He's in Los Angeles. Carlton Bailey, hope that you're surviving all the rain we're getting here lately. We've just had a lot of storms on there. And Tom Celentano, I know you'll be buying stuff on there. And I didn't see here that my daughter Jessie's watching. So hello, McKinley, and hello, Macy, my toddler granddaughters there in Bristol, Tennessee. We'll be in touch with you all later today. So, and Steve Jokums, thanks to you for all that you've done for our museum. Again, let me put up here, Marty, got two special guests to kick off next week there. Lee Wilson, educator and science-based artist. His art is really cool and really thoughtful with the science behind it. He'll be on Monday on Stay Curious. He's excited, as is Mitch Rothman also. Both of them taking their first dip into the Stay Curious world. Both, I'm sure, it will not be their only appearance. And Mitch, quite a space influencer. Check out his NASA Manned Space on Facebook. He's got 5,000 more people than we do. He's got about 17. We got about 12. And I don't care about the numbers as long as we're dishing out quality and as long as you intelligent space geeks out there are enjoying it. So I'll be watching the auction. I'll be watching football. Hey there, Chris Callie. And I'll be watching the sky also. And hopefully get out and see the Milky Way this weekend. So until Monday with Lee Wilson, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. Plop, plop. Hope I feel better.